I am Sivarama Prasad, visiting faculty at IARE. Last time we spoke about subject matter expertise and how the data specialist, the joint working is so useful. And this time we'll see one case study which happened long back, almost 25 years back. But at the time it happened as a first step, and how that case study can be viewed and taken as a reference for all future workings. Let us see one. It was basically during 1980s, that is 80 to 90, in that range. The Maruti Suzuki vehicles have come into Indian market, and that is the startup of the Indian automobile industry. A look by the global top, looking at India in a different perspective. If you see before, it is just considered as high illiteracy nation, very poverty driven, very conservative, and except population, there is nothing specific to tell about India. That was the global attention. There is sometimes when there are some natural calamities, they used to help and take, that's all. After the launch of these vehicles, Suzuki, what happened is, it is the largest population is looked at as the largest and biggest opportunity to improve or upgrade literacy, uplift, and also to get into products of appliances, automobiles, beauty products, but many things like entertainment, housing, everything. And it has become a very preferred nation for all the global tops. And during that time, the Suzuki, which was a Japanese company, it has become the biggest name, and it has acquired it because of the highest volumes it was started making in India. And the demand, it has created a large base in India that has made a need for that. And that was the time people started thinking, that is industry, automobile industry started thinking, instead of all imports, let us get into collaborate and indigenize or localize. So the first steps started during 80s and 90s. And by 2000, the initiatives are so dominant that everything has to be localized or indigenized. And everything is from local, because the volumes have become so big, the costs of transport and storage and inventories, it is so big, it is unmanageable. Even the model changes, new launches, it has become a very difficult affair. So everything started indigenizing and locally making. And at that time, there was one product, it is car door frame. It is very bulky one. At the same time, it's very delicate, and it's very difficult to make. And not only making, to handle it, to transport it, to store it, every point is a difficult task. When volumes were less, it was done, but when volumes have increased, that is one of the biggest opportunity. And that was the time this door frames development is taken as one of the major project by a company. Normally, if you see car doors, earlier days it was of two sub-assemblies. One is door frame, another is the bottom portion of main door. And there is one more type of door assembly, that is a press form type, where the entire top to bottom is a single piece, which is formed by a sheet metal machine, that is a press, hydraulic press, mechanical press, and dedicated lines it is. And these door frame types, the top and bottom, the top one is made of a rolled section, that it is a sheet metal, but is made from a narrow width coil. And that coil from a plain sheet, it is made into profiled, then formed, then welded together and made it to be a frame. That is how the door frames are being made. These two types were very predominantly being used in any car. If you see this roll form, this door frame type, you need highly experienced designers for making that product. And this expertise was available with very few people across the world. So what happened is, in a way, it is a monopoly, but on a different perspective from automobile industry, it has become a major bottleneck or is a limited supply. It cannot be expanded. So they started looking at different way of making. That is how the press formed door frames have come. So our focus is now mainly on roll form, which was started in that period of 2000. And in addition to this difficulty, it is a very highly skilled job. And if you have to do it, you have to import lot of parts or lot of equipment, and including the design, you have to bring it from abroad. So it has made very unviable solution, and some people have already tried, unsuccessful. So it has made for limited volumes or models, it is very what you call unviable. That's why not many suppliers have come forward to make it. And this door frame, if you see, the profile is a very complicated one, and the surface you have to retain, and the roll forming is another engineering function where it is like a sculpture or an artist who is making the design. It is not more of scientific design, it is more of a judgmental design. And every stage, material forming, material not losing its texture, and material getting into the shape plastic and not getting back into spring back. Like this, the design is one of the most critical thing in this. Because of non-availability of the experience of the design, it was not made. That is the first step. Later on, the skill of operations. So, how to tackle this? It has become a big issue. Since the roll forming machine is not available, the design is not available, we started making a first step. And the software also, it is not a proven software for this type of complicated thing. It was there, it was working, but for simple sections. So manually doing this design, literally in India, it was not possible. It was done outside the world, outside the country, but that was with very difficulty. That was the time at which this software has come. The software is not yet proved. It was never done by any Indian engineer, or it is not very successful outside also. So that time, highly risky or a challenging initiative was taken by the company, and we wanted to do it for Maruti models. At that time, software is on one side, manual designers are on one side. So both started making the design. Software, whatever data is required by software, that was given by the designer, and the subject matter, that expertise, all the details, input data were given. And the data specialist, he has taken it for handling the data and get into the output side. So, with the software and the design input, data specialist made one design, and the normal designer with the subject and manually he has given one design. Both the results, when you see it, manual was at somewhere about 30 stages, whereas software gave only 20 stages, it can be possible. And for the designer, it looked so absurd that you can never make that. Because of his practical experience, he thought that in 20 stages making it is ridiculous, and worldwide nobody has made it also. So with that, designer is not able to get convinced. So he said software doesn't work. So he's not confident, he doesn't want to use the software, and he wants to go back to manual design and do it. See, we bought the software and we want to make a first step, a pioneering step to use that, so that the expertise available with one person will get into a multifold, and you can expand it by doing a lot of other products. But a designer was dead against this. So it is a dilemma and there is a deadlock. That means everything. Normally people tell software doesn't work, sir, design doesn't work, only personal practical experience works. All these things have come and stopped the design, and we want to go ahead with manual. But that was the time just a team again, they relooked and wanted to work and give a try. How? Let us not worry about the systems and design, all those things. Combinedly, let us understand each other. Design need what, material need what, software need what, logic where it is obstructing, or where the designer is getting issue, doubts. Then like that, people started working, and one by one, they have removed the hurdles. Software understood the designer perception, and designer understood the software assumptions, and both have merged it, adjusted the parameters, and designer how he is making it. Software man observed it, and how the software is behaving in giving the data and taking the data. Designer understood, and they both made it a mutually adjustable or interacting steps, so that at every step manually it is interacted and then changed the steps, commands, and that commands software man has modified it through a program. Then what happened? Whatever a manual design was there, the same thing has come in the software design. So both have got emerged, and the result was both are getting the same result. That was the starting point for using the software, and not to blame the software. They have started working at both the strengths, and then utility of it was mainly because of the ability to create. That means the more detail you create a program, the more useful it will be for the user. And the entire knowledge of practical things, they could be able to put it into software. After the first step, then we looked back into all the details. That is, generally in industry, any work is done by 4Ms. That means material, machine, man and methods. These 4 play a very critical role. Then other 2 is okay, but for our present thing, here design, raw materials is the major thing. In raw materials behave in a totally different way. It depends on the batch, it depends on the properties, it depends on the test data, how we are feeding, it depends on the spring back and plasticity, it depends on some of the fixed values and non-fixed values, or flexible values, non-flexible values, and selection of the data, and in the process, how we have to vary the strain values. This all is a major thing. That is why manually when it is done with a lot of iterations. Hardening, non-hardening, and cold forming, very minutely forming, or already formed area again reforming. These are all some of the things which are very critical for a software to get into that. So manual thing was very successful. And with all this, there is to be swing back, which you have to compensate by stressing or de-stressing also. All these points, one by one, they were fed into the software. And the working conditions, the machine data, RPM, drive, driven, and free run, are some of the speeds and feeds and temperatures of working, spray or water coolant or cooling type, recirculating or just one time. All these things have to be fed into the data. In addition to that, the subject matters experts, the metal forming expert, he has to put his experience and intuition and what he perceives by looking at the different color codes and different strain values, how he has to adjust it. All these things have been put in. And the computer software, the data specialist, what he has done is, every detail of designers, he has taken it and he's converted that into a data, either as a standard data or a non-standard or data to be fed in the process. So this operating language and logic, he changed it, entire software, he modified it to make it suitable for how far or how near to the reality condition. So after matching all the areas, then you have to run it a manual run, auto run, and semi-auto run. During that time, there are some processes which needs setting, and then you have to run, then stop and see how it is, then give a modification, then again run. So all these things were put into the software through manual interaction, that is man-machine interface. So the data, real time into the things, assumptions getting into the reality, and interlinking and dependency, interdependency, all these relationships, once they are fed, then you get a flower design like this, where each step, the flat sheet, progressively get into the shape. And this is how the roll forming design was made with the help of software. This gave us the real lesson why it didn't work earlier, because software is a good one, data is given, whatever is data, and experienced role forming company and expertise. But the thing is, everything was independently given and there was no interlocking, and basically at the border areas, at the transition, it was very difficult to take a decision. Only a human intelligence could be able to take, whereas the system, it went there and it stopped. So what happened? You couldn't get continuity, and because of no continuity and the commands were not there for the next step, it resulted in impractical things and it just took unacceptable output. But as a system, it gives some form, which that form was not acceptable to the designer. Later, what we have done, we have removed that independent and we started looking at closely, understanding each other and the real conditions, constraints, openings at where that constraint is there. We started removing that constraint by addition of a command. So what happened? Entire thing smoothly run and finally it gives the solution. What it tells is, see, if you want a success and sustain that success, independence or dependence or adjustment, it doesn't work. You have to be consensus and you have to work jointly, and there should be an interdependency and at the same time it should be an understanding type. Finally, we should have the spirit of a common goal. It is not that we are proving software is right, subject is right, or application is right. No, finally the goal is the profile should come all right. That is the goal. With that idea, when we made all the other things, what happened? The designer started looking at entire designs, iterations, everything from the point of view of software. So, software conditions were brought into the designer. And software, what has done? They started taking the design aspects into the software. A totally modified software was made, and then it has become, instead of one software, it has become two or three. That is, whatever processes which are very standard, which are very comfortable, that was made that ways, tested, and which was proven wrong by many processes. It was taken into a standard software. Then some software points where you have to take some options by looking at different milestone steps. That was taken as second one. The third one is totally interactive and judgmental. That means it works only on the system is working only for the iterations, and every step is manually selected. That is made the usable for complex system, and simple systems a standard one. In between, with amateurs or some subject experts, you can run the in between modified or improved one. So all this deep study, one time, assignable cause, abnormal causes, and stage-wise constraints, all these things, you have to look into that. It is not possible just by giving a data, but the data, it should be amicable for software, and the software steps should be amicable for the designer to feed in. So only then the experience of the both experts and capability is a major thing which helps here. That means both have to share that experience and make the system such that you will not get into a circle loop or open loop, and finally you have to give a system which a user is happy to use it, and it should be user friendly. This is how the system is to be made. Otherwise, if software alone is making, it may be a good software, but it may not work properly. Whereas if designer is making, it will take a long time, but he cannot make use of the system to speed up or to work in a very optimum way. He may assume, but it will not be optimum. Sometimes it may be over design, sometimes it may be a risky design. So with this method, what happened is we got a single output, and that output, when you want to convert it into manufacturing, it is just a hours design. That means 30, 40 rolls. It comes to almost 200, 150 to 200 rolls. You have to get the design, AutoCAD design and 3D design, profile design. Because it is already developed by software, just like that you can get it and take it. Otherwise it was a Herculean task earlier to make so many designs. It used to take 1 or 2 months to make only the drawings. And after this, when you tried the trial was so successful, you could able to get the shape without much difficulty, which was never before. If you see earlier days, at least 1 or 2 months it will be only for trials. Whereas in this time, the trial was just a week. Within a week, you could able to get the shape, and also the dimensions and all. That fine tuning has to be done, because the dimensions, because of the spring bags, however fine tuning you do, in the last minute you have to adjust it for the real case. So, like this, if you work, the computer software and the subject merging will be very good, and it has given a very boost up, a pioneering effect of software, which first time in India software is being used, and a task of the supplier was very challenging. If it is not there, it is something like a do or die. We would have closed the factory. It was such a risky one, and because of the startup effort, roll farming has become just an easy affair in India, and most of the auto OEMs, they are using this with the software, just like that, with the suppliers, and this has given a win-win for both, and the joint working has given a lot of benefits to the entire industry, and not only for the just company. And software team, designer team, and the software, it has penetrated into market, and designer team has become more multidiscipline, and software They understood all the designs. And finally, the company has become the single largest company. And the team, today they are one of the most competent professionals in the field. Of course, some people have retired also. So this has brought the design capability into India, which was never before in role forming for complex systems. Everything is to be from collaborator or a technology provider, which was very costly. And because of that, low volume models were not able to be done. Everything you have to invest very heavily. And this real experience, which happened about 23 years back, at that time, it was I say it is a do or die. But today, when you look back with that experience and also that case, it is looking a very simple one. But whatever it is, years pass, but the core concept of joint working and sharing the expertise mutually for a common goal, that is intact. Only that helps. And finally, any program, if you take it, the success comes when you deeply look into the program and deeply look into the subject, and both work jointly, and program making the standard steps with close merging at the transition areas where there will be a man is to take a judgmental decision. That area you have to be very critical, very closely monitor the system requirements. And man-machine interface, when you are bringing your experience into the machine, you have to create some steps where a man has to interface and adjust that conditions so that machine can run successfully in next steps. Otherwise, it runs into loops, which is the real cause for creating hang-ups. And the result, the software which gives is either it is directly as per the plan it will give in case of standard things, or in some other cases where it is very complex, it gives options for the man to decide and then select the action for next activity. And this real time during the running, either it is regular program and run or some semi-auto selective. You take, run it, and at a stage you operate it with an option, or sometimes it is totally interactive. That means a man sitting there and interacting with the design, so that the design, when it is a complicated one, it has to be done. System is used or software is used only to reduce the monotonous work or fatigueful works, not the judgmental works. Judgmental works anyway, man has to do it. That's why the success means, especially in this time, the application and system, it should ensure that theory and plan are, it should match the reality, and you should reach the reality, what is planned. And the reality is a plan or is a desired one. And the solution finally, it should be user friendly. And if it is user friendly only, people will use it. And if it is, you are getting the result as per the desired, then only people will use it. And the application, it should give the desired result. Until then, if system is giving some other result, people may not use it in a sustained way. That's why, please understand this and work in that spirit. Then only you can sustain the success. That's why the future belongs to those people who understood this and practicing it jointly, sharing the knowledge without competing but by collaborating. So this is the way the system, software and the subject have to work together. That's why core engineering and application engineering, they have to merge or understand each other, then should work. Otherwise, each alone independently, the success may be very short and it may get into some issues which will make both fail. So, jointly work and give successful solutions. Thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.